Hey guys, welcome to another Jewish Crash Out. I'm Jack the Jew, and on this episode, we're going to be watching a battle royale, a rematch between Goldie and Anna Kasparian. We have Alika Laban is back. I'm hoping I'm getting that right this time. And we're going to watch Aaron Maté, who has been on, we've seen him before. And we're just going to watch this circus that is the Piers Morgan Uncensored. And yeah, and we're just going to react with it. Thanks for crashing out with me so that I'm not doing this all by myself. And you guys are also watching this with me and understanding the insanity of it. But I think it's going to be a good matchup between especially these two, Goldie and Anna Kasparian. And if you like reactionary videos like this, if you want to watch these kind of shows but with somebody, we're here for you. And please like and subscribe and comment. And even if you disagree, I'm always happy to respond to even people that disagree, as long as it's civil, of course. And so let's watch Piers Morgan and this battle royale between all of these people.
He can't keep up with where we are with this war, other than I read somewhere today, I think Axios reported this, that one of the Trump administration has said Trump isn't playing 3D chess, he's playing 12D chess, and that he basically throws out all these contradictory things because he wants to keep the enemy guessing. Now, maybe that's true, but it might also be, I would offer up as an alternative theory, that he's got himself into something that he quickly has realized is not a good idea, but not because taking out the Iranian regime is not a sound idea in principle, or that they've been an appalling repressive regime, but not a good idea because the Iranians have hit back in a way I think that they've been taken by surprise by the scale of it, economically, by closing the Strait of Hormuz, by attacking the Gulf states, and that the combined effect of this has been a shuddering shock to the global economy. And so Trump wants out, and yet it's very difficult to see how he gets out with a convincing claim of victory. So those are the theories. What's your view?
He's already had a lot of victories.
I mean, at the end of the day, my view from the very beginning, and still my view to this day, is that this operation, whatever it is, has to be seen through to the end, because the worst case scenario is that this war ends and the regime is still in power. That's worse than if the war never happened at all. And so in terms of what I'm here to do, or what Goldie is here to do, is represent, these sentiments of the Iranian people and how we feel about what these military strikes are doing, which are targeting an oppressive regime that, has been, we all know, has been oppressing the Iranian people for 47 years. In terms of the military strategy, that's not really within our purview. The only thing that we can do is trust that the United States government knows what it's doing and has an effective plan to remove this regime.
Amen. I totally agree with that. I don't know what's going on. Again, the fog of war. And it's very hard to understand what the exact strategy is. I have my own personal opinion. I think that at the beginning of this war, this current Iran Israel-U.S. operation, I think they should have gone in much harder, and they should have stopped them immediately as much as possible. And I think that, in my opinion, I think Trump, and maybe I'm wrong, but I think Trump maybe went a little bit too slow and didn't do like the Bush shock and awe for 2 or 3 days in the beginning. And I think that was a mistake.
Okay, but explain this to me. I get that. But let me just ask you this. Donald Trump said yesterday that the mission of making it impossible for Iran to develop a nuclear weapon had now been achieved. It seems to be where he's edging now as the sort of totality justification for the action he took. But there's one problem, is that all the enriched uranium remains untouched, underground in Iran. The capacity to develop that into a nuclear weapon remains exactly as it was before this war was started. So I don't understand how Donald Trump, or anybody, frankly, can claim that they have stopped Iran from being able to develop a nuclear weapon when all the tools they...
This is a worry for me. I am worried about this uranium that is out there that is 60% enriched uranium that is still out there that is not, they could make a bomb out of it.
Need remain exactly where they were before it started.
Well, that's the question that's on everybody's mind, right? The only thing that we've ever asked is for this war to go to completion and for this regime to be removed. It was never in our imagination that you would stop at the point that their nuclear capabilities were decapitated. We were told that the end of this war would be when this regime fell, that uncompromising surrender. That's the only ambition that we were ever told. So I don't know what to tell you about this falling short at just, well,
but that, okay, I'm going to bring the others in. I mean, Anna Kasparian, that's really interesting because, Alec is reflecting there what so many people are thinking, which is the goalposts have changed so often. It was early on, this was going to be regime change, and they thought by decapitating.
The same thing has happened in almost every war that has ever been started. Strategies have had to change, and because, again, the enemy gets a vote in the war.
The top of the regime, killing the Ayatollah and a lot of the top people, then naturally, and apparently this was what the Israelis told the Americans, there will be uprisings and the regime will topple. None of that has happened. So they've now moved, it seems to...
Again, they've told everybody not to do that. The Trump and the CENTCOM has told people that want to protest not to protest yet because the IRGC are still in the streets.
Me to a different, game plan, which is actually what we meant all along, was degrading their military and stopping them building a nuke. They've done the first, that has to be accepted. They've massively degraded the Iranian military, but they've come nowhere near to stopping them developing a nuclear weapon, if Iran chooses to, because the uranium is still there.
Unfortunately, you have two different countries that are involved in this effort to, I guess, either topple the regime in Iran, which isn't going to happen, or, degrade Iran's military capabilities and ability to build nuclear weapons. For the Israelis, it was never, ever about nuclear weapons. It was never about degrading Iran's military capabilities. It was always about regime change for them.
Yeah, and that's what expats from Iran also agree with. We're in alliance with this between us and the new revolution in Iran.
But in order to build consent or manufacture consent among the American people for a war that we all knew was going to be a disaster, the American people were fed lies and all sorts of fear-mongering about how Iran is such a threat.
Yeah, by you guys. You guys are the ones feeding them these lies.
We need to get involved and we need to disarm the Iranians. Okay, how is that working out for us? There was no strategic military plan in place. Elika is on the propaganda wing, and she's like, oh, I don't know, it's not my job to think about the military strategy. No, Elika, it is your job to think about military strategy because you're advocating for something that's going to get American soldiers killed. It's going to get innocent civilians killed. In fact, that's happening right now as we speak. And so you should ask yourself, is there really a reliable path here, a militaristic path that's going to secure what I personally want, which is regime change? And honestly, there isn't a path. There isn't a path. First of all, I don't have a path because I've analyzed the situation and realized that Iran has a formidable military and that we're going to put our soldiers in jeopardy by taking them over there. I didn't interrupt you, and you're
in World War II, I hate to bring it always back to World War II, but in World War II, the North African campaign was bogged down. The Allies trying to get into Nazi Germany through Italy was bogged down, and Normandy was a risk at itself, and it was, thank God, successful. War is never a straight line, and the point that I think Alika is trying to make is that you don't have a plan. What Anna Kasparian would just let the IRGC kill thousands of their own citizens, threaten allies, the Gulf states and Israel and Turkey and Azerbaijan and Cyprus, and allow them to just threaten the Straits of Hormuz. And, Anna Kasparian has that's the point. Anna Kasparian has no plan for how to deal with Iran. And her dealing with Iran would be let Iran kill Israel, really.
And you don't have a Why are you interrupting me? Piers, are you going to intervene? Because she's interrupting me when I didn't interrupt her.
Yes, I think that's a fair comment. You shouldn't interrupt each other because we can't hear either of you when you do. So
I appreciate it. it is important to ask yourself, as you're advocating for military action, whether or not that military action is going to secure the gains that you're advocating for. And if you looked at the landscape, if you looked at the terrain in Iran, if you looked at what Iran is capable of doing, the fact that they control the Strait of Hormuz, you would think about all these elements before spouting off about getting the United States involved in a war that isn't going to secure what you think it's going to secure. There isn't going to be regime change in Iran. And by the way, I think it's disgusting that we are dragged into a war on behalf of a foreign country that does not plan to put any of their boots on the ground. Not a single IDF soldier is planning to be on the ground.
Okay, that's a really interesting point. Let me bring in Goldie Ghamari. Welcome back.
In my opinion, and Aaron Maté is a Jew, so he's not really representing me. But as an Israeli, as a Jew, I actually believe that Israel, and I hope that if there is an invasion of Iran, Israel's troops are a part of it. Because I think we need to be a part of this together with the alliance that we have with the United States. I think we have a few thousand that we can definitely put into the game. And I think it could make a big difference. But also, I think the Gulf states and Azerbaijan and Cyprus and NATO and the Europeans, which is NATO, need to put in troops to be able to help bolster the American troops. And I think that would be enough to be able to actually do something that is needed to be done, that Alika and Goldie both want to be done. And these are both people that are Iranian. They're not Jewish.
Back to Uncensored, because it seems to me, look, I'm not a military expert, but a lot of my family have served at high level in the British military. And there is only one way to get that.
He always brings this up as if it's like some kind of
enriched uranium, and therefore be sure that you can prevent Iran in the future developing a nuclear weapon, because they're very advanced as it is with this uranium. And the only way you can do it is with ground forces. The problem is it's incredibly dangerous, that operation, because of the terrain there, because of the way you would have to do it, because of the embedded defenses that the Iranians clearly have, the drones they have, and so on. This could very quickly, if America tried to do this, and I think it's perfectly reasonable, Anna, to point out, so far there's no suggestion the IDF will join this, even though it's clear from Marco Rubio's own mouth that America went into this because the Israelis said, we're doing it with or without you.
He brings up this has been proven false again and again, and he keeps bringing it up as if it's fact.
If it becomes a ground war, this could become very quickly disastrous. I mean, do you accept there's that risk here?
There's always a risk in everything that happens, but I mean, ultimately, we're dealing with the most powerful military in the world, the U.S. military. Their intelligence is top notch. President Trump himself has said that the reason that he decided to begin this as he calls it, an excursion into Iran is not because of Israel, it's because he assessed the threats to the United States. And, obviously the commander-in-chief of the United States of America has way more intelligence information than, just random podcasters on YouTube. So, I trust President Trump. I trust his analysis. And Pete Hegseth has also said that the vast majority of the Islamic regime's ground forces, it has been destroyed. Their drones, their missiles, everything. So the only thing that's really left of the Islamic regime is just their paramilitary forces. In fact, they're so weak that they're now not only bringing militia groups from Iraq, but they're now actually
they're already doing this before,
conscripting 12-year-old children. Which
I've heard this as well.
Which is a war crime. So the Islamic regime is now using children to
but
fight.
But if they're that weak, all right, look, let's take for a moment your premise that they've been almost obliterated, which I keep hearing. Okay, but from where I'm looking, the regime has not been displaced. I mean, Donald Trump this morning put out a new post on Truth Social saying Iran's new president, much less radicalized and far more intelligent than his predecessors, has just asked the United States of America for a ceasefire. We will consider when the Hormuz Strait is open, free and clear. Until then, we're blazing Iran into oblivion, or as they say, back to the Stone Ages. His usual hyperbolic rhetoric. But we don't know who he's talking about, by the way, because no one's come forward from the Iranian side to say, yes, that's me, and we are talking to the Americans.
And Piers, I think that's actually very funny because As far as we knew, the president was Pezeshkian. If President Trump is saying that there's a new president,
Right.
does that mean Pezeshkian has been obliterated?
Well, that's why.
I mean,
Well, that's why I said, we don't know who this
Yeah.
guy is. We don't
Yeah.
know that he's much
This is the fog of war.
radicalized because we've no idea who it is, or that he's more intelligent than his predecessors. It could just be Trump playing games, trying to divide and rule with the IRGC. That's highly likely, I would think. And maybe that's an effective tactic. Maybe that's an effective tactic. We shall see. With all these things, once a war starts, it's very, very difficult to predict how this plays out. But what I would say about the strength of the American military is there's been an asymmetric war going on here. And I'll bring Aaron in here. The asymmetric war is that you've got the American and Israeli combined incredibly powerful military, the most powerful military we've ever seen in this planet, waging merry hell across the skies of Tehran. But at the same
Yeah, but I disagree. I don't think they've been bombing merry hell across Iran. I think they've been very strategic in their bombing, and because of that, it's been a very slow plan. And because of that, Iran has been able to react to what the U.S. is doing.
time, the Iranians, like I said earlier, very skillfully and with great cunning, it has to be said, doing a very effective job in economically strangling the world through the Strait of Hormuz, and also strangling the economies of the Gulf states, its neighbors, by attacking refineries, by attacking tourist areas, and so on. This has been very effective. I think far more effective than the Americans and Israelis thought may happen. So you've got two wars going on here, and my guess is because of the pain that's happening at the gas station prices, food prices to come, because fertilizer's been shut and so on, you're going to see a lot of fallout from this all summer. You've got the midterm elections in America in November. Donald Trump is many things, but he's not politically stupid. He will know that they could take an absolute beating in the midterms and render him a lame duck if he doesn't do something to resolve where he is right now. I think he wants out, which is why he keeps talking about 2 to 3 weeks, I'm gone, and whatever. What do you feel?
I think his foremost concern right now is calming the markets, and that's why he keeps saying that he's having these great talks and they're getting somewhere and he's going to wrap this up really soon. I can't divine what's in his head anymore. I used to think he had smart political instincts, but I think going to war against Iran in a completely unjust, unprovoked fashion has blown
Unjust, unprovoked, unbelievable, this guy.
up that impression for me. And there's a debate going on right now that we're having about whether or not the Trump-Netanyahu war in Iran is effective. I think we're missing a more fundamental question. Is it right? Is it just? And the fact that Iran is waging asymmetrical warfare underscores a really important point. It's the weaker party militarily, which underscores it's not a threat to anyone.
Oh, so October 7th and the Syrian civil war and basically making Lebanon into a IRGC base, that was nothing.
Trump went to war.
And Yemen. I forgot about Yemen.
Or because Iran acts as a deterrent to U.S. and Israeli hegemony in the region. That's not a threat to anyone's security. It's a threat to domination. And that's why Iran is being subjected to these attacks. And it's whether or not Trump can achieve his goals or not, it doesn't obscure the fact that it's fundamentally illegal. Under the standards of the Nuremberg trials, aggression is the supreme international crime. That is what Trump undertook here. Even his own intelligence agencies affirmed a year ago, and this hasn't changed, that Iran did not have a nuclear weapons program. It limited its missile ranges. At best, they said
But
by
we do know.
2035.
But hang on that point, because we do know that
We know that they didn't limit their missile ranges.
they were clearly lying about the capacity of their missiles, right? They
Yeah.
fired a missile only last week, which went twice as far, ballistic missile, twice as far as they had said that their missiles were capable of going. It didn't actually land on its target, but the distance it traveled would mean it could potentially get to Europe, it could get to London, to Paris, whatever. That is in direct contradiction to the undertakings Iran are given about the distance
I wonder why Iran lied about that.
its missiles could go. So they've clearly been lying.
Well, not necessarily, because first of all,
Not necessarily. See, Aaron Maté always playing defense for the Iranians.
even NATO said we can't confirm that Iran fired that missile. So I'm not even sure that it was Iran.
It was Israel.
But let's say it was Iran. If it was Iran, then it's quite possible they put on.
Look at Goldie. Goldie's laughing at that. She can't believe that he's blaming not Iran for shooting the missile at unbelievable.
Let's find it.
Hold on. Well, listen, I wouldn't put anything
Yeah, who
past
else?
Israel. They carry out all sorts
Exactly.
of nefarious acts all the time. I wouldn't be surprised if this was a false flag.
Look
Listen,
at her.
let's assume it was Iran.
Well, hang on. Aaron, you're expecting me
let me
to...
finish the point,
Hang on,
Piers.
you're expecting me to believe...
See, this is why when Aaron Maté brings on these conspiracy theories, they fall apart because at least Piers Morgan is at least semi-objective and will be like, what are you talking about? The missile was clearly shot by Iran. It wasn't shot by a false flag, because this false flag conspiracy has been going all over. That the attacks on the Gulf states have been all Israel. The attack on Cyprus was Israel. The attack on Azerbaijan. The attack on Turkey. We've done this before, but that's a conspiracy also, that Israel is doing false flags within the Iran war, which makes no sense at all, and we've gone over that, but he owns that kind of conspiracy. He lives in that world, and when he brings it up, at least Piers Morgan at least shoots it down.
that Israel...
Look how upset he is.
Let me finish the point, Piers.
Look how upset he is.
Well, hang on. Aaron, you're expecting me
let me
to...
finish the point,
Hang on,
Piers.
you're expecting me to believe that Israel deliberately fired a ballistic missile at an American base.
Yeah, that happens. Believe it or not, that has happened.
And here comes Anna Kasparian, because she lives in the same conspiracy world that Israel would do a false flag on America to blame it on Iran.
Past.
Yeah, Israel
Unbelievable.
decades ago attacked the USS Liberty, killed a bunch of U.S. soldiers. So actually, I wouldn't put it past them. But listen,
That wasn't a false flag. That was a mistake.
let's assume it was Iran. Let's assume it was Iran. Just hold on a second. I'll just finish this point.
Is it possible?
If it was Iran, if I can finish this point, it's possible they put a smaller payload on the missile, which means it can travel further. And regardless, look, this whole debate is skewed because Iran is defending itself against an act of unprovoked aggression, an act that is not targeting the quote-unquote regime. It's hitting schools. They massacred
Oh, God, this again.
over 150 girls in the opening hours of this unprovoked war. They're hitting pharmaceutical
But the war
plants
wasn't
that make medicines,
unprovoked.
Aaron,
Aaron,
for Iranians.
look, on this
Yeah, the war was not
They're hitting
unprovoked.
residential buildings.
Yeah, but Aaron,
They're
the
not going
idea...
after...
Okay, but look, I have serious misgivings about this war and have done from the start. I do not think that Iran had an imminent capacity to have a nuclear weapon or to use one. I think
Okay,
that
in
is
2 or 3
nonsense.
years?
And also flies completely in the face of what we were told after the 12-day war last summer. We were told that whole capacity had been destroyed anyway. So none of that makes any sense to me. But the idea that Iran had never provoked either Israel or the United States, I mean, that is also patently disingenuous, because Iran for the last few decades has systematically waged a campaign of terror through the Houthis, Hezbollah, Hamas, and other proxies against Israel. Ayatollah has led the chants of death to America, death to Americans. They have killed, I think, more Americans than any other nation in the world, right, in the last 47 years. So this idea that this has all happened out of nowhere, you know, I just think is disingenuous.
I think the fundamental problem in the region is that you have an Israeli government that gives itself the right to displace the indigenous Palestinians, steal their land, and deny them a homeland. And Iran, on that question, has been far more accommodating than Israel and the U.S. have in terms of accepting the international framework for the Israel-Palestine issue. Iran has said that they would support the Arab Peace Initiative, which offered Israel full normalization if it allowed Palestinians to have a state in just 22%.
They offered this in the middle of the Intifada.
Second of historic Palestine. Iran has cooperated with the U.S. in the past. You mentioned earlier that Trump's turning his back on NATO, and NATO helped the U.S. in Afghanistan. So did Iran. Iran provided critical intelligence to the U.S. that helped the U.S. capture fighters from al-Qaeda and the Taliban. And that was blown up when George W. Bush gave the speech declaring Iran to be a part of the axis of evil. The U.S. Ambassador Ryan Crocker said that seriously undermined Iran's cooperation, which was very, very fruitful. And there have been so many more diplomatic initiatives since. Iran sent Bush a letter offering to resolve all these issues. Bush ignored it. There was the Iran nuclear deal.
Bush ignored it. It never even existed, this letter. The letter's never been confirmed by the administration. It's only been other sourcing from here and there, people that were in the administration that have an axe to grind.
But even Trump's own administration certified that Iran was complying with.
And what about the slaughter? What about the slaughter of thousands of protesters, including many completely innocent civilians on the streets of Iran in January, for example, because
He doesn't care.
the noise from the left, I have to say, was pretty. I'm not accusing you or Anna. I don't know what you both said about it at the time. You can enlighten me. But
They said nothing. There you go. Thanks, Alika. They said nothing.
It was a deafening.
I'll tell you what I said.
Oh, hang on. There was a
Don't speak for me. Don't put words in my mouth.
You said it. No, I actually remember very well.
Sorry, I'm actually
You
talking.
don't know what I had to say about
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. I heard it from your mouth.
Okay.
There's no evidence that 30,000 people were killed. Show me the evidence.
There it
and I'll
is.
admit that
There
I'm
it
wrong.
is.
But
I have the
How many do
evidence.
you think were
where
killed?
is the
Evidence is
evidence,
there.
Elika? Where's the
You want me to
evidence?
tell you?
What's
You
the
want me to
source?
tell you?
Yeah, go ahead.
I can
Go
tell
ahead.
you the source. I can tell you the source because how quickly
ahead.
you believe a terrorist regime, but you don't believe
Just give me the
actual-
source. I don't need to
I'm
hear
going
your
to tell you
spiel.
right
What's
now.
the
I'm going to
source?
tell you right now. Silence. And I'm going to tell you every single hospital in every single city in Iran gave a tally of how many corpses were in their beds. In total, that amounted to 36,500 people, and that didn't include the
What
people
is
that
your
were slaughtered.
source?
Good job.
What source
I just
compiled
told
those
you,
numbers?
The hospitals. The hospitals.
Every hospital? Okay, so you
Every
yourself talked to
hospital
every
in
single
Iran.
hospital?
I saw the list. I saw the
What's
list of
the
every
source?
hospital with every
You saw
number.
the list.
Google it.
Who
Google
published
it.
the list? Who published
It's
the list?
everywhere. Human rights
Oh, it's everywhere.
organizations.
You should know
everywhere
the
it's
source. You
published.
should memorize that. If you're
But-
so
wait,
heated about
I'm
this
telling
issue.
you.
Okay,
You should
but you know
memorize
what's
that.
interesting? Okay, hang on. You know what's interesting, Anna? Yeah, you're having
Yes,
the
go ahead.
complete reverse. You're having the complete reverse.
No, I'm not.
Well,
I'm not.
okay, I'm going to
not.
explain. We haven't
The
heard
New
my-
York Times just published a piece on
You
this
haven't
that I
heard
hope
my
you
question
read.
yet.
That I,
Yeah, she is reversing her concept. When it came to Hamas, she believed every tally every time.
I hope you read.
You haven't
Go
heard
ahead.
my question yet.
Right. You care about the deaths in Palestine, but
No,
you don't
no,
care about
not
the
that, but
Iranian
not
people.
that.
I do care about the
You
Iranian people.
got utterly,
Unfortunately,
you got,
they've
hang
been.
on. You got utterly
Go ahead.
enraged when people questioned the number of people who'd been killed in Gaza, rightly, because it turned out those numbers were broadly
Correct.
accurate, have now been admitted by Israel. And yet here you are doing exactly what so many Israeli guests did on this show about the deaths in Gaza. You're just refusing to believe any of the numbers coming out of things. So my question for you would be, well, if it wasn't 30,000, then how many do you think were killed?
I don't know. I don't know
So
exactly
how do you know it
many
wasn't
people were killed.
30,000?
Hold on.
You don't know
Let
that.
me
Why are you
explain.
Sorry,
saying
hang on.
it happened?
Elika,
Sorry,
let me make
again,
my point.
Anna,
If you're going to
Anna,
ask a
Anna,
question, let me
Anna,
answer it.
Anna,
Let me answer
I am
the
moderating
question.
this. Anna,
I
so
know,
my
but
point
let me
being,
answer the
my point
question.
being, the very question that I used to ask all the Israeli guests who would try and cast
I know.
aspersions.
I know.
Is the same
Let me
question I'll put
explain
to you.
myself.
It's the same question to you, which is, if you don't know, how do you know it wasn't 30,000? You
Okay,
don't.
let me explain it, okay?
You don't know.
No, Piers, let me explain it. Okay, when it comes to Gaza, the Gaza Health Ministry, historically, you look at the history, they have historically been accurate and very careful.
That's incorrect. They've been historically correct about the number of people dead, but they've always overestimated the amount of women and children dead, and always Hamas is, after these wars, 2014, 2006, etc., or 2021, even afterwards, come out and go, you know what, you're right, we did lose about half that number really is Hamas. Again, a one-to-one terrorist civilian that might be killed in that operation.
When they publish death tolls, okay, they're always confirmed. In fact, oftentimes they're an underestimate. So I know to trust the Gaza.
But that's an incorrect concept, because once again, they admit that the majority of those people that are killed, before they say they're women and children, and then after the war they go, you know what, you're right, most of them were Hamas.
Health Ministry, because of its history of publishing accurate data. In the
No.
case of
Incorrect.
Iran, we know a few things. We know because so many American former government officials and current government officials and the Israeli media were literally bragging about putting Mossad on the ground, arming people. And that's why so many of the law enforcement or police officers, security forces in Iran were also killed. Okay, there's a lot of disinformation coming out, and there are different sources publishing different information about the death toll, which is why I don't.
It's called the fog of war, which is why you never should stay statistically, yes, this is exactly what is happening, etc., like Anna Kasparian has done with the Gaza war. She said she 100% declares it's a genocide, and she has no evidence for that, but she'll believe it. But again, the fog of war, you don't really know, even after the war is over, and historians talk about it, always there's discrepancies and and controversies to what exactly happened.
Oh no, I have not found a source
Right,
that I fully trust
and yet you
that's
are
giving me accurate data.
No, but Anna,
Okay.
again, I would use the same questioning I did to people about Gaza.
How many of them were killed by Mossad operatives? How many of them were actually killed by
I'm not asking you.
Oh my
No,
God.
I'm
Another
simply
false
saying-
flag
I'm
attack.
simply saying, once you've admitted you have no idea how many were killed, I find it extraordinary that you would be so emphatic in refuting the 30,000 number. You don't know.
You think
Can I
30,000 people were
jump
slaughtered
in?
in 1 week?
I think it could easily
really
have
think-
happened from the
Yes.
scenes that
Yeah,
I'm looking
easily.
at.
I don't
Okay,
think
you don't
that
believe it.
happened.
Okay, but
I don't believe it.
given that you've admitted you don't know, you don't know. Let me come back to.
Can I just-
She doesn't believe it.
You know, I have noticed there has been I think there has been a double standard here from people on the left who I respect, where they seem to care an awful lot more about Palestinians being killed in Gaza, which I also shared their care about, and the protesters killed in Tehran at the start of the year. And it was deafening. It was deafening. And Hollywood was deafening by its silence too. And I just think that's another thing that is just wrong about this. It's intellectually dishonest to people.
It's
like,
because-
to pick and choose which
You know what's
innocent
dishonest?
people.
It's because no Jews, no news.
Here's the fact
Can I just jump in
that
now?
Iranians are getting killed right now. Civilians are getting targeted right now. This war began, okay, with
Yeah, now they care about Iranian civilians.
100, how many? 175 people getting slaughtered at an elementary school? Elika, you got anything to say about that? Do your people
What about the 30,000 there were a lot of them were teenagers and kids? And also that protesters that are arrested that are being killed and executed right now. They don't care.
feel
I do.
liberated?
Yeah, I do,
You don't
actually.
live in
If you
Iran.
let me
You've
speak.
never lived in Iran.
Yeah.
And you have the
I've been many
audacity
times.
to
I've
talk
been
about
many
this as
times
if it's
to
the
Iran.
liberation of the Iranian
been
people
many
as
times
they're
to
getting
Iran.
killed, as their hospitals are
Oh,
being
shut
bombed,
up.
as
Shut
healthcare
up.
workers are being killed. Disgusting.
Shut
Go
up.
ahead.
Let Elika
Shut
respond.
up,
Let
okay?
Elika respond.
First
I'm not
of
gonna
all,
shut
when
up.
you talk about,
Well, you're not going to
yeah,
respond
okay.
because you asked me to stop her interrupting you. So I'm now saying to you,
Okay,
Anna,
go ahead, Elika.
let her speak.
Please go ahead.
When you talk about the
nice.
Hamas-run Gaza Health Ministry, you say their numbers have historically been accurate. Well, did they ever
You're
separate
disgusting.
civilians from Oh, good. Insults. That's good. Did they ever
Yeah,
separate
yeah.
civilians from combatants? They didn't. And in the end, we discovered that that number did include many combatants. Okay.
The IDF
so that's
did,
the first
actually.
Thing.
We know their numbers.
Correct. That's good.
83%
right?
civilians.
Okay, are you going to interrupt?
83%.
Are you going to interrupt? Actually, Hamas said that 50,000 of them were combatants. Regardless.
Anna Kasparian's number of 83 is also incorrect. That was a number that was taken off based off of the IDF list of known people that they killed, that they had a name for, that they know that they targeted, that they killed. That was the 83%. They've killed a lot more. They don't know who they were shooting at when they were shooting at buildings when people were shooting back at them. You can't know every death. That was the 83%, and she's so smug about it.
This. You are quick to
God.
trust the Hamas-run health ministry, which just shows who you trust,
Yes,
right?
I
Which
am.
is terrorist regimes. Second of all, you sat there just
Yeah.
right now and said 178 school children were killed. First of all, you said nothing about the hundreds of children that were killed on January 8th and January 9th by the regime. And second of all, where did you get that number from? The only people who have confirmed that number is the regime. And that just goes to show.
Wait,
that
hold
just
on.
goes to show. Wait, let
Are
me
you
finish my point.
denying
Let me finish.
that 175 people were
I'm
slaughtered
not.
in that school? Are you denying it? Are you denying it?
Let me finish my point. Let me finish my
Because
point.
you did deny that it was the US
let me
Israelis
finish
that
my
did
point.
that.
Are you going to let
Go
me
ahead.
finish my point? There absolutely were children killed in that strike. How many? We don't know, because the only people who have confirmed it is the regime.
Yeah, but
okay?
again,
Not-
Elika, okay, well, now let me,
not
Elika,
let me finish my
hang
point.
on.
Let me finish.
Let me jump in
shameless.
there.
Let
No,
me
because
finish my point.
you're now doing exactly. Sorry,
no,
you're,
I'm not.
You're now.
If you let me, Piers, if you let me finish
we
my
know,
point.
It's not
we
the
know
same.
how
What
many
I'm doing.
children were killed.
No,
we know how many were at the
that's
school.
not
How
what
do
I'm
you know?
saying. Piers, let me finish my point and you'll see what I'm saying, okay? I'm not saying what's real and I'm not saying what's not real. Here is the point that I'm making. When the people,
The fog of war.
okay, tell you something, doctors, witnesses, eyewitnesses on the ground tell you something, okay? It is questioned. When the regime says something, it is believed. So what I'm saying is that I'm pointing out to the hypocrisy of how easily they believe regimes, which they might be true. It might be true.
Yeah, but you know, the trouble is, again, you're both basically casting doubt over the death toll numbers.
It's not about casting doubt.
You're both casting doubt over the death toll numbers of the other side. And that's my point about intellectual dishonesty. I don't think it's honest to do that. I mean, in relation to the attack on the school, it's pretty obvious to anybody what has happened there.
We know that people were. We know
why. It used to be. Let me finish my point, please. It used to be part of an IRGC compound. Then it was moved out several years ago to be.
It wasn't moved out. It was literally carved out of the actual base to make a school.
Just outside the compound.
It's not just outside.
They clearly deliberately attacked the compound, and the missile was slightly off and hit the school and killed over 160, 70 young schoolgirls at school. It was a disgusting.
Again, we don't know that for a certainty.
Thing to happen, and what America should have done, what President Trump should have done, is just immediately had the investigation, concluded it immediately. They know if one of their missiles hit that school or not. They knew immediately, and they should just say, we made a terrible mistake. We were aiming for the compound next to it. We hit the school. Terrible things happen in war. Terrible mistakes happen in war. We are owning this mistake. I would respect any country that says that when that kind of thing happens enormously more than I respect the obfuscating and disingenuous bullshit we've heard about the attack on that school. Right?
Absolutely, but Piers, that's not the point. The point is that how quickly people run with numbers provided by a regime that historically does nothing but disseminate propaganda, and how quickly they question the words of the witnesses of people who have seen this massacre on the ground. That shows you who they defer to, and that is what's worrying.
Okay, let's just
I'll make a point, Piers. The government published a list of people that it says were killed during those protests. If people think that list is false, what they can do is
they're either alive or dead.
There has been.
You know what? They're either alive or dead. And it will be verified. And my guess is that many thousands were killed. Exactly how many thousands, I don't know.
It may never be verified.
I'm intellectually honest enough to say I don't know, but I certainly, because I don't know, I'm not in a position to emphatically deny any figure because I don't know. Let's just turn. I want to turn to another. Hang on, listen, we're running out of time.
Because those numbers are ridiculous.
I want to turn.
Those numbers are ridiculous.
I want to turn to another issue.
From 30,000 to 40,000.
All right, we've done the ridiculous numbers. All right, stop talking, please.
Because you're anointed.
I want to change the subject and bring Aaron in here. All right, Aaron. I want to talk about this extraordinary thing yesterday where Israel's parliament approved a law that would make the death penalty the default sentence for Palestinians.
I wonder what Aaron Maté's position on this is.
Convicted of what they regard as deadly terror attacks. The legislation was pushed by the far right with Ben-Gvir, the National Security Minister, its driving force. After the vote, and I found this particularly sickening, he was seen opening bottles of champagne and celebrating, posting on X,
And I think he should have been arrested for doing this in the middle of the parliament.
History we promised, we delivered. And, I just found this, I have to be honest, completely repellent.
I fully agree.
Ben-Gvir and Smodrich.
Yeah, look, see? And this is the difference between other parliaments and other people. This is a security guard who came over. You'll see, this is a security guard. He's going to come over and stop them from celebrating this because this is nothing to celebrate.
Completely repellent. I find Ben-Gvir and Smodrich.
See? There he is, coming in and stopping them from doing it because it's the wrong behavior in the middle of Knesset to celebrate any killing of anybody. I'm not happy about it.
Repellent anyway. I think they are unbelievably far right. I think they have dragged Israel into very dark places, this Israeli government.
But a majority of Israelis agree with the death penalty because they've seen October 7th and we had to release people with blood on their hands and we don't want to do that anymore and we'd rather take them and kill them. That's it. If these are the games that the Palestinians want to play, we can play them too. If you try to stab a grandmother or ram a car into a bus station or a bus stop and you kill people, we are going to put you up on death penalty. That's it. It's very simple. America does it. We do it as well.
This is indicative of what I mean by that. The death penalty has existed but not been used in Israel for decades. They're bringing it back only for Palestinians who they...
That's not correct. It has to do with terrorism. Anybody that does a terrorist act that kills people is up for the death penalty. That includes Jews, Muslims, Christians, Palestinians, Israelis, anybody.
deem guilty of terrorism. Some will have committed
Not guilty of terrorism, guilty of terrorism that kills people.
acts of terror. Others are furiously disputed by the Palestinian side. So it's an arguable point. And we'll have to see who they decide they're going to kill. You know, Ben Gvir and others were wearing nooses as badge lapels on their suit. It was sickening. But
I agree again.
also, you know, they're saying it won't apply to Israelis. Right? So you won't have Israelis being killed under this new law in Israel because, of course, they're not going to convict any of their own for any act of terrorism, even though many other people view a lot of the behaviour by some of the more rogue elements of the IDF to be acts of terrorism.
There was a terrorist attack by a Jew in Hebron in 1994. We weren't able to convict him. We weren't able to put him up for a death penalty, even though we probably wouldn't have done that back then. But the reason why he wasn't able to be charged is because the Palestinians beat him to death.
So there's a terrible double standard there, which and the way the Ben Gvir and others have been celebrating it is sickening for anybody, right? Whoever you are. What's your view of this?
Yeah, and this is the government that working class American soldiers are being forced to die for. Nobody signed up to defend this fanatical Jewish supremacist state, but yet this is what people are being sent off to West Asia to defend and to die on behalf of. And as Anna pointed out, the Israeli military won't even be sending its own ground forces if there is a ground invasion of Iran.
We should.
Is what the Israeli government is. People like to think there was maybe an earlier time when the Israeli government was more liberal and things have gone the wrong way. Well, when you found your country on ethnic cleansing, when you claim that there's a divine right to steal land from somebody else, when you establish an apartheid regime that privileges one group, Jews, over another, Palestinians, this is what is going to happen. This is the inevitable result of Zionism. And it's what so many people around the world now...
I'm really sorry the one state that is Jewish has a bias and allows Jews that are trying to flee areas like the USSR and Ethiopia and France and the UK now and America now that are fleeing these areas that are coming to move to Israel because of their security. I'm sorry that we built a state for them. I apologize that we are biased for Jews because no other state in the world will do it for us. So we have to do it for ourselves. That's Zionism.
Are waking up to as being just incompatible with any basic standards of humanity. But yet we're constantly told by all of our leaders that Israel is a top ally, they share our values. Well, these aren't my values, and these aren't the values, I think, of most decent-minded people. So
you think, yeah. We don't share the morals of Aaron Maté, that's for sure.
what you're seeing now, I think, because of Israel's actions, and it's not just, it goes far beyond this measure. We've just seen more than 2 years of a mass murder campaign against the defenseless civilian population in Gaza, which is ongoing. And also, you're seeing concurrent acts of terror every single day by Jewish settlers backed by Israeli soldiers in the occupied West Bank. People are waking up against this, and global opinion.
Yeah, look,
is no
I would
side of
agree with
Israel.
you. I would agree with you on the settler point. I think there's been some outrageous aggression by Israel.
And I disagree with it. Again, it's wrong, and they should be arrested.
Israeli settlers against Palestinians in the last few months. I would take issue again just with the way you characterise the defenceless civilians in Gaza. Of course, they're surrounded by Hamas terrorists who committed one of the worst acts of terrorism in modern times on October the 7th and are still embedded all around civilians and have been from the start of this war. So they're not, if you're being honest again about what's happening in Gaza, they're not defenseless. I think it's gone way too far what's happened in Gaza. I think the initial defense I made of...
Well, what would the UK or the US have done if October 7th happened to them?
Israel's right to defend itself, its duty to defend itself and its population has been just desecrated by the scale of what has gone on there. And the fact they still won't let journalists in to verify what has gone on there says everything to me. It says they know what they've done does not live up to their claim to be the most moral army in the world. They've done stuff so bad they won't let journalists in to look at it. And so, that's my view about it. But I think the idea that
Also not true. They've let in Sky News, BBC, CNN. They don't allow them into areas that they don't control because Hamas might kill them.
one has been there armed in Gaza, able to fire back. Obviously they have. That's what Hamas have been
I
doing.
didn't say they couldn't fire back. I said they can't defend themselves from one of the most sophisticated armies in the world, dropping 2,000-pound bombs on residential areas and destroying.
No, I get that, but the truth is that war went on for a long time because actually there was a lot coming back the other way too, right? So I agree with you. I don't disagree with your overall point. It's just language is quite important. Let me bring in.
I agree.
Let me bring in Goldie. I want to bring in Goldie on this point. Goldie, you can defend Israel's government, and so on. I hate the way people conflate the actions of the government with Israeli people or Jewish people. To me, it's a ridiculous thing to do. It's anti-Semitic to hold the Israeli government to account whether they're this right wing and doing such terrible things.
But that's not what Aaron Maté or Anna Kasparian ever do. They hold Israel to a higher standard than anybody else, which is anti-Semitic.
When I looked at what Ben Gvir was doing there, right there, I think I posted this on X. This is despicable.
It's despicable.
To see a senior government minister of any supposedly civilized country cracking the champagne open at the thought of killing people. Whatever your argument about the people that they're going to put to death, wearing nooses on the thing that they've gone back hundreds of years into the Wild West. This is wrong, isn't it? Can you condemn this?
I can.
I mean, my understanding of this law is that it is limited to Palestinians and Hamas.
I don't condemn the law. I condemn Ben Gvir's behavior. That's the difference. I do agree with the law.
Terrorists who were specifically involved in the October 7 attack. So this is basically a law that's only for that particular incident. With respect to internal Israeli politics, I mean, I don't really comment on internal politics. Not really my thing. I mean, You
do for Iran.
So, yeah, because I'm Iranian, and of course I comment on Iran. But
she's Iranian.
Well, you're not American. So why are you trying to drag America into wars that you want America to fight?
Why are you commenting on Iran? You're not Iranian.
Okay, then how about you leave America out of it? You want to comment on Iran, that's fine, but demanding that American soldiers die on behalf of your little agenda is a little disrespectful, isn't it?
I think it's absolutely insane that you think that I have anything to do with President Trump's decision to go in and destroy the Islamic regime. I think you're absolutely insane.
I mean, he takes counsel from the likes of Laura Loomer, so you never know. You never know.
I have nothing else to say.
I'd actually like to go back to someone who has
You're absolutely insane. Yeah.
things of substance to say
Anna,
real
I will
quick.
come to you about this issue, but I just want to finish one point with Goldie. It's not true that this only applies to Palestinians who were involved in October the 7th. It doesn't. So that's not.
If that's the case, then I mean, as a former parliamentarian, I probably wouldn't be, sipping champagne and celebrating. I think, it's a very grave.
Well, especially a law that only applies to one ethnic group.
So, I mean, I would not.
Right, but it only applies to one ethnic group, right? I mean,
I don't think that's true.
How can that be remotely?
I think it has to do with any terrorist attack.
Acceptable to anybody.
I'd have to go look at. I'd have to go look at that legislation. But ultimately, I mean, this is what they voted for. So it's their internal affairs and their sovereign state. And
and you know what? We're perfectly entitled to call it.
After what happened on October 7, I can see why there's a lot of passion around this situation.
Okay. Alec has dropped off. I don't know why. I wish people wouldn't do that, or at least say they're going to do it. Oh, it's technical issues. All right. I hope it was. Anna.
May I jump in? Thank you, Piers.
Final point to you.
I appreciate that. So, look, in regard to that law that just passed in Israel, it isn't just the fact that it goes along with the existing apartheid state of Israel, where Palestinians are treated as subhumans. It's also the fact that Palestinians are tried in these kangaroo courts, basically military courts, that have a 96% conviction rate.
Because they're not citizens of Israel, and that's the reason why they go to military courts.
And often these so-called admissions of guilt are secured under duress, under torture. And so a lot of innocent people are going to be hanged. And that's the whole point of the law that just passed. That's why the terrorists within the Knesset, the Ben-Gavirs, the Bezalel Smotriches, they were celebrating specifically because of the fact that they know that they're going to have some legal path to justify the slaughter of more innocent Palestinian individuals. That's what's going on.
We'll see.
And can we just have Aaron say one last thing? Because Aaron's reporting on what happened to a toddler, a Palestinian toddler, who was detained alongside his
We just covered this.
father in central Gaza, is something that people really need to know about. Aaron, can you just briefly talk about that? Because I want people to know about what's going on.
Hannah, you're giving me too much credit because I haven't really done anything on
Yeah, he hasn't done anything. It was a father that lied to him, and he wrote about it in the Gray Zone, which is a reputable magazine, of course.
this, but I do know the basic fact that there was a toddler seized in central Gaza along with his father, and he came back with burn marks. And the doctor
But
says
that's been
that
the last report I saw about this. Sorry, the last thing I said was was erroneous, that reporting, and it was denied, and then the verified reporting came back. I think that it was not true.
okay,
about
well, I haven't seen that, but what I
you know
saw
what? I
was
think we
that-
we'll look into it. My understanding
the
is
point is Israel slaughtered thousands of Palestinian children. The Washington Post
okay,
actually
but
has
we're moving into a different.
a list of
okay, we're moving into a different.
Unbelievable.
say this is totally.
I wish you
in
guys
keeping
cared
with
this
what
much
they do.
about
I don't want to. I don't want to move into other more general arguments about it.
They do
I wish you
care.
guys
They're getting
cared this
slaughtered
much
right
about
now.
Iranian
They're getting
children.
slaughtered right now. They're getting
Okay.
slaughtered right now.
by the
Right now.
Islamic
Right now.
regime.
Right now.
Yeah, by the
Okay, because
Islamic
of what you
regime.
want.
Yes, the
Okay.
Because of
God, Aaron Kasparian is crazy.
what you
slaughtering.
want.
All right.
Because of what you want. You're disgusting.
Okay.
You know
Okay,
what?
crazy.
It should
You're disgusting. You.
be mandatory that in the last 3 minutes of every uncensored debate, a member of the Young Turks team comes on. You all lose your shit. It is
Yeah.
How
possible.
could I not?
Well, it
How
is
could I
possible
not?
to end on a more civilized manner. Just accept
It's
that.
really difficult when,
Well, you have
know.
different opinions.
You know, when she hates Israel so much.
You know. That's why I
Okay,
get
I'll
everybody
try
on
to
with
stay
different
calm as
opinions.
she
But we
advocates
should
for the
never lose our
slaughter of
basic
innocents
sense of.
in
We
her
shouldn't
homeland.
lose our
Okay.
sense of civility when we debate things, because that way
do my
madness
best next
lies.
time.
Anyway, it's always good to have you. Thank you to my panel. I appreciate it, and to Elika, who apparently was tech issues. Well, Jordan.
All right. Well, that was a good crash out with the great Piers Morgan, the great ringleader of battle royales in politics. I think that was a good crash out. That thanks for you guys being there with me, because certainly it's hard to watch some of this stuff. I do give Piers Morgan a little bit of credit that he tries to be objective in his own mind. But once again, I don't think he would think that if the UK did what they did in Gaza, what IDF did in Gaza, I don't think he would react the same way, and he would understand why they had to do what they had to do, and I think he would justify it. So, I mean, I think he's hypocritical himself. So, again, thanks for crashing out with me. Again, if you like crashing out with me and watching this together, please like and subscribe and comment, even if you disagree with me. Of course, it helps the channel so that we can have these discussions, which I think are important. Yeah, that's my opinion on what we just watched. And yeah, so I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye.